keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Let the doors be open, que l'on ouvre les portes.
Merci.
Statements by members, déclaration de députés. The honourable member from Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, every winter, CALSA Aid Canada has its winter drive in memory of Mata Gudri. She and the younger sons, or Chote Sahibzade of the 10th Sikh Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, were made to suffer the elements during winter while in captivity. In Canada, inflation and food insecurity disproportionately impact women and acutely impact our youth. And 1 in 3 food bank users are children. This year in Victoria, CALSA Aid Canada provided food to Rainbow Kitchen, Mustard Seed, UVic and Royal Roads University Food Banks, hot meals at Our Place Shelter, tents and winter items for Justice Van Society and peer-to-peer, as well as continuing to support their annual donations to youth-focused organizations like Threshold Housing, Out of the Range Shelter, and the Foundry Clinic. Women and children, especially single-parent families, are struggling with the high cost of living. I thank CALSA Aid Canada for all they do.
The honourable member from Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
'Tis a week before Christmas, and it's time to state that our PM is well past his best before date. After 8 years of his rule, it's time to say thanks for doubling the number of folks using food banks. After 8 years, when our kids nestle snug in their beds, they're just lucky there's still a roof over their heads. For on cold winter nights, under snow and the stars, many citizens now have to sleep in their cars. You can protest, of course, but only in small amounts, lest like the truckers, he freezes your bank accounts. And he'll accuse you of hate based on faith or on race, which seems strange for a man caught 3 times wearing blackface. He's so quick to say sorry for wrongs from long ago, but not for when he elbowed Ruth Ellen Brousseau. So let's quote back to the PM some words of his home. Sir, enough is enough. Now go home and stay home. And here's what we'd like Santa's elves to administer. This Christmas, please bring us a brand new Prime Minister.
The honourable member from Willowdale.
Mr. Speaker, 2023 marks the 60th anniversary of Canada's diplomatic relations with the Republic of Korea. Several days ago, the Korean National Assembly adopted a special resolution celebrating this significant milestone. The resolution mentioned the immense contributions of Canadian veterans to the defense of democracy during the Korean War and acknowledged the deep economic, strategic, and cultural ties that bind our 2 nations together. As such, Mr. Speaker, I rise to echo the same sentiments in this House. Today and every day, let us honor our shared history with this cherished ally and redouble our efforts to broaden and deepen our comprehensive partnership while celebrating the enduring friendship that has flourished between our 2 nations. As they say in Korean, ham ke do, gun ha ke, stronger together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député d'Abitibi.
The honourable member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to welcome 3 local farmers to the Hill, Eric Lafontaine, Alexandre Bégin, and Mathieu Dumont. I salute the courage of all agricultural entrepreneurs who've lived through one of the worst years in terms of weather. In Abitibi West, they experienced a winter frost that destroyed crops, historic forest fires that forced the evacuation of livestock, and catastrophic drought. To make the public and elected officials more aware of the economic and psychological impacts, Eric, Alexandre, and Mathieu and Maxime Fontaine have drafted a red letter, which they will deliver today to the Minister of Agriculture. The letter was signed by 79 farm businesses in my riding, many of which are currently having to sell part of their livestock due to risk management programs that are too poorly adapted to climate change. We're talking about nearly 30% of the livestock that has already been sold or is currently being sold to ensure these farms' survival. level. Minister, you need to be generous and commit now to ensuring the sustainability of our agriculture. Mr. Speaker, I take the floor today to express my sincere gratitude to the dedicated individuals and organizations that support the Vaudreuil-Soulanges food banks for their outstanding service to our community, especially during this holiday season. The holidays, a time of joy and celebration for many, can also be a challenging time for those experiencing economic hardship. It's during these times that the Vaudreuil-Soulanges food banks rise to the challenge. To the team at L'Actuel, La Source d'Entraide, Popote Roulante, Café de la Débrouille, and Moisson Sud-Ouest, I say thank you.
Teams and volunteers at Le Pont Bridging, Meals on Wheels, and the Dream Center, I express my sincere gratitude to you on behalf of all members of our community for your tireless work in extending a helping hand to those in need. Because of you, the holidays will be a little brighter for our neighbors, family, and friends, and for that, and on behalf of this entire House, I say thank you.
The Honourable Member from Essex.
Speakers, families across Canada anxiously anticipate Christmas Day, opening presents and having turkey. Many families will not all be together. Doctors, nurses, and caregivers in our hospitals, long-term care homes, and hospice will be taking care of our loved ones. Firefighters, police officers, and first responders will be keeping our streets safe. Hydro workers will be working to keep the lights on our Christmas trees bright. Snowplow operators will work day and night to keep our roads clear and safe. Pilots, flight attendants, and airport personnel will be working hard to get us to our destination so we can be with our families. Border security officers will work long shifts protecting our vast borders. And of course, our brave men and women in uniform both in Canada and around the globe keeping Canadians safe will sacrifice yet another Christmas without their family. And the list goes on. This Christmas, I ask Canadians to take a moment to thank those who serve so selflessly. Thank you to those who will miss their Christmas Day so that we can be at ours. Merry Christmas.
The Honourable Member from Mount Royal.
The increase in anti-Jewish hate over the last 2 months is a danger to our country and its values. It is a danger to our democracy. It is a danger to our national security. One of the most hostile places for Jews is on campus. Last week, a U.S. House committee heard from the presidents of Harvard, MIT, and Penn. All three were asked whether a call for the genocide of Jews would violate their code of conduct. None unambiguously said yes. Today, some colleagues and I sent a letter to the 25 biggest Canadian universities asking how they are protecting their Jewish students. One thing we asked was whether a call for the genocide of Jews would violate their policies. I have also tabled a motion with the Justice Committee for us to undertake a study on anti-Semitism with a focus on universities. I hope colleagues will join me in quickly wanting to tackle this issue. Mr. Speaker, the Jewish community cannot fight this alone. We need all MPs and all Canadians on our side. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, as we look to the new year, I rise in the House today to wish all the residents of my community of Mississauga, Erin Mills, and all Canadians a very happy holiday season. This is a time to reflect upon and reinforce Canadian values of hope, generosity, and unity for everyone, especially during what can be a very difficult time in many of our communities. I also want to thank my own team who work diligently to support the residents of our riding and the work that I do on their behalf. We have worked hard this year for Canadians, Mr. Speaker, and I know that we will continue to work harder for them in the new year. On behalf of all the residents of my riding, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and all the very best in the new year. Thank you.
The Honourable Member from Banff-Airdrie.
80 years ago today, the village of Kalvarita in Greece fell victim to the cruelty of occupying German Nazi forces in World War II. On December 13th of 1943, the Nazis rounded up all the males over the age of 12 for execution, and they locked the women and children in the village's school and lit it on fire to burn them alive. The women broke down the doors to find their husbands and sons sadly dead, and their village in ashes. The widows were left to rebuild shattered lives. They displayed immense courage and determination as they worked to provide for their families and preserve their community. The women of Kalvarita demonstrated the power of human spirit in adversity and testified to the indomitable strength of women. Euphemia Vea was the last widow of the massacre. She passed away in 2008 after having immigrated here to Canada with her daughter, Georgia. And her courage and resilience allowed her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren to thrive as proud Canadians. As we reflect on this dark chapter in history, let us honor their memory, and may the victims of the massacre of Calvarita rest in peace.
Wow. L'honorable député de Sherbrooke.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to support the Remove Your Label campaign of the Fondation du Centre de Jeunesse de l'Estrie. This initiative is designed to raise public awareness of the importance of removing the labels we put on others, particularly those under the care of youth protection, young offenders, and young youth protection workers. Our young people need to have confidence in themselves to achieve their goals, and this is even truer when they've had a difficult start. By proudly wearing this ribbon, I become a goodwill ambassador, and I'd encourage others to do the same. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence in the gallery of the new executive director of the Fondation du CGE, Alexandra Goulet, and congratulate her on this initiative. She herself benefited from youth protection services and is well placed to understand the importance of destigmatizing the children under youth protection. Congratulations, Alexandra, and long live the campaign.
The honourable member from Dufferin-Caledon.
Conservatives support Ukraine. It was a conservative government that was the first Western country in the world to recognize an independent Ukraine. It was a conservative government that negotiated the existing Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement. It was a conservative government that commenced Operation Unifier. And it was conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper who said to Vladimir Putin, "Get out of Ukraine." On the other side, this Liberal government exported a gas turbine that's been used to pump Russian gas to fund Putin's war machine. It was this Liberal government that allowed Canadian detonators to end up in Russian mines that are being used by the Russian army in this war. It was this Liberal government that decided to not provide war risk insurance that prevents Canadian companies from investing in Ukraine. Don't listen to their Liberal disinformation. Conservatives unequivocally support Ukraine.
The honourable member from Selkirk-Interlake Eastmain.
The results of Operation Unifier is why Ukraine has been able to fight for the last 658 days against Russia's genocidal war. After Russia annexed Crimea and began the war in Donbass in 2014, the Liberals and NDP on multiple occasions voted against Operation Unifier, voted against Operation Reassurance, voted against the first shipments of military aid to Ukraine, and voted against hundreds of millions of dollars in assistance to Ukraine. And in 2016, this Liberal government's first foreign policy act was to cancel the provision of radar-sat images to Ukraine to appease Russia. Since 2018, Conservatives called on Canada to send lethal defensive aid to Ukraine when it could have acted as a deterrent against Russia. But the NDP Liberal government refused until the hot war began and even called me a warmonger for it in early 2022. Conservatives negotiated the first Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement, and when we form government, we'll negotiate a better one that doesn't include a carbon tax. Conservatives will always stand with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!
The honourable member from Winnipeg North.
Yet they still voted against the Ukraine-Canada trade agreement. Mr. Speaker, we all remember the voting marathon last week. While the Conservative leader was whining and dining last week at a high-end fundraiser, his Conservative MPs here were served a cold, unhappy meal, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative leader may want Canadians only to order from off the value menu, but we know they deserve the whole Big Mac meal, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Canadians have seen the mega politics value menu the Conservative leader has to offer, and they are not loving it, Mr. Speaker. But let us be serious. Mr. Speaker, Canadians know it would be a nightmare if that leader was to take charge, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
We've now had our tit for tat. I would like to hear the honourable member from Vancouver Kingsway, please. The honourable member from Vancouver Kingsway.
It was the night before before Christmas and all through the nation, Liberal numbers were tanking to the PM's frustration. The Speaker was restless with nightmares in bed while partisan videos danced through his head. As secular snowflakes made their Grinch-like descent, the Bloc says that Christmas is not a religious event. While the two Greens tried hard to make themselves heard, if co-leaders don't work, maybe try a third. When what to my wondering eyes should appear, the Conservative leader bringing burgers, no beer, with his little red apple who votes through the nights. I knew in a moment this guy really bites. More rapid than reindeer, his chops he laid bare, revealing his taxpayer-funded oral health care. Public dental for all is the NDP's dream. We'd have pharmacare too if the grits weren't so mean. And one final wish for this season of light, happy holidays to all, and to all a good bite.
I love a good roast. L'honorable député Abitibi-Témiscamingue.
The honourable member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Oh.
Hastings, excusez-moi. Oh, Montarville. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Montarville. My apologies. Acadian Remembrance Day reminds us that in December of 1758, 3 ships packed with Acadian deportees were shipwrecked, killing 850 of them. It was the deadliest episode of what has been called the Great Upheaval, which resulted in the dispersal of the Acadian population across North America. In the grand scheme of history, Acadian identity was, not so long ago, unacceptable to English colonialists. They did everything in their power to marginalize and even assimilate them, but it didn't work. The Acadian identity survived and bounced back into a dynamic diaspora that continues to thrive. But the trauma of those who survived those deportations, lost at sea, victims of a heinous attempt at eradication that cannot be denied, will always be a painful wound. Today, Acadia remembers, and so does Quebec.
The honourable member from Hastings, Lennox, Nottington.
After 8 years of this Liberal NDP government, Canadians are financially spent. Instead of common sense tax cuts to help struggling families, in his fall economic statement, the Prime Minister doubled down on his massive increase to the carbon tax, driving up the cost of groceries, heating, and gas. When the wallets of Canadian families were raided bare by this government's carbon tax, it was the Conservatives that heard the calls for help. It was the Conservatives that introduced C234 to deliver carbon relief on farmers and the people they feed.
That's right.
The legislation was duly passed in this House, Mr. Speaker, with support of every party except the government. And then, right before Christmas, the Prime Minister called in favors from his functionaries in the other place and lobbied his Liberal-appointed and anointed senators to cut the legislation. Now that it's back in the House, the Prime Minister needs to put his zeal for carbon tax aside, listen to Canadians who feel troubled, broken, and betrayed this Christmas season, rein in his ideologues in Cabinet, and pass C234.
The honourable member from Dartmouth, Cole Harbour.
'Twas the week before Christmas, and I must admit, 30 hours was a long time to sit. But Liberals prevailed on behalf of the masses, while Tories stepped back and sat on their hands. On the other side, we witness a continuing saga. Diefenbaker's party looks much more like MAGA. And I know they've been challenged by a leader's swinging door, but they think they struck gold with leader number 4. They gave him a makeover with etiquette classes, pumped up his chest, and took off his glasses. But no matter the issue they put on the docket, we still persevere with the dippers in our pocket. This marriage of convenience might seem like a rental, but because of this deal, Canadians got dental. support from the Bloc Québécois. But now it's time to return to our ridings and share with our friends the best Christmas tidings. And Mr. Speaker, I know that you will hate to see us go. If you think of us over Christmas, please don't send us a video.
That is really good advice. Oral questions. Questions orales. L'honorable chef de l'opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mrs. Speaker, after 8 years, this Prime Minister is not worth the cost of debt for Canadian families. He said that the government was going to burden itself with even more debt so that Canadians don't have to do so themselves. But today we've just learned that now Canadian families spend more on interest on their debts than ever in our history, more than Americans spent during the 2008 crash. Will the Prime Minister finally inverse inflationist policy and taxes that have indebted Canadian families and that force them to give more to bankers and less for the groceries? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader continues to rise to speak about austerity, and we've just seen last week the true face of austerity from the Conservatives. They voted against helping dairy and egg producers and poultry farmers. They voted against funding for the Plains of Abraham. They voted against helping people from the Madeleine Islands after Hurricane Fiona. Even worse, the member for Mégantic-l'Érable himself voted against funding for the railway plans for Lac Mégantic. Shame. Quebecers will never forget it.
L'honorable chef de l'opposition.
Another example. The Prime Minister hasn't even started building around Lac Mégantic. It's been 8 years. For 8 years, there have been announcements and announcements and announcements. Money is spent, but with no results. The same is true with regards to affordability. He spent $97 billion for housing affordability, but what it did was double the cost of housing. According to the Bank of Canada, the cost of housing is worse today than over the past 41 years. Will the Prime Minister finally inverse his inflationist policies that have doubled the cost of housing for Canadians? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, whilst the Conservative Party was partying last week, Canadians were served cold chicken McNuggets. $2 million, that was the cost of showing the true face of the Conservative Party of Canada. When it comes to supporting our veterans, how did they vote? Against. When it comes to supporting farmers, how did they vote? Against. When it comes to helping First Nations, how do they vote? Against. Mr. Speaker, we see who they truly are.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
For 8 years, this Prime Minister and NDP Liberal government are not worth the cost. He said that he was taking on all this debt so that Canadians wouldn't have to. Well, now we learn that Canadians are spending more on household debt interest than at any time in Canadian history, more than the American families were during the 2008 financial crisis that almost brought down the global economy. Will the Prime Minister reverse the inflationary high-tax policies that have indebted Canadians and driven up their interest rates?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The audacity of this Conservative leader knows no bounds.
Right.
Just last week, he voted against a national school food program, and now he rises to talk about affordability.
That's right.
Let's be clear. This Conservative leader has no long-term vision for this country, with or without glasses. It takes more than a couple of bags of McDonald's to feed Canadians. That's why we're going to continue to step up and be there with investments for Canadians, while he talks about cuts and austerity and then goes and votes for cuts and austerity.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians can't even afford to feed themselves a couple of bags of McDonald's after 8 years of this Prime Minister taxing their food. Speaking of food, you know the only problem with his school food framework? it doesn't fund any food.
Right.
It funds politicians to talk with bureaucrats who talk with lobbyists about establishing a conversation towards consulting. It funds bureaucracy and not families. So speaking of one way he can make food more affordable for everyone, including our kids, will he pass Bill C-234, the common sense conservative bill to take the tax off?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, we've seen exactly why, whatever his justifications, they have chosen to vote against initiatives there to help Canadians. Whether it's dental support for hundreds of thousands of kids that we've already brought in, with more support for seniors, they chose to vote against months ago, Mr. Speaker. They're continuing to step up and vote against the programs that matter. And while they seem not to care about climate change and want to sit back and watch the world burn, they're actually going to watch Canadians' food sources burn as well.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, it is that Prime Minister that is burning a hole in the pockets of Canadians. We voted against his plan to quadruple the carbon tax, a tax on heat, gas, and groceries. Now, the Prime Minister, when I raised the cost of $100,000 for one farm in my riding, which will rise to $400,000, I said, will he call the family and find out and tell them how they're going to pay the tax? He said he would reach out to them. He would have a conversation about how they're going to pay a $400,000 carbon tax bill. Can he tell the House what he told that family about how they're going to come up with $400,000 in more taxes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We recognize, Mr. Speaker, that the price on pollution is a key part of actually making things more affordable for the long term for Canadians by pushing and encouraging innovation. Indeed, our departments reached out to that farm family, to that very successful large mushroom farm in the member opposite's riding, to talk about the programs we have that can move off of their dependence on fossil fuels. We know there's work to do. We know there are investments to make, but that, Mr. Speaker, is how we fight climate change and build a better future. We have a plan to fight climate change. They have no plan because they don't even recognize that climate change is real.
Hear, hear.
Then I have
the Honourable Member for Bailey-Chambly. Yesterday, Canada at the UN voted for a ceasefire in Gaza. I unreservedly commend the wisdom of the Canadian government, who joins a huge international movement. An important nuance has to be noted. This is not telling Israel that it cannot defend itself. It is not a support for Hamas. It is an indignified response to the loss of human life. To promote peace here as well, can the Prime Minister commit to changing our statutes so that hate speech in all of its forms is condemned? Mr. Speaker, the impact of the crisis and the war and the violence in the Middle East can be felt throughout the world, especially in Canada. We are a strong country, strong through its diversity. We have people from all sorts of origins who are currently stressed, scared, and angry. And that is exactly why we're working so hard to fight against anti-Semitism, to fight against Islamophobia. We do everything we can to unite people in these difficult times so that people remember who we are and what our values are as Canadians. The Honourable Member for Bailey-Chambly. My call to the Prime Minister is as follows. Let us end 2023 with dignity. We could unanimously vote for peace in our streets and peace in general if we exclude religious-based hate crime from our society. Our streets will be safer and our conscience would be cleaner and more at peace. Can the Prime Minister commit to this? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I would like to commend and thank the leader of the Bloc Québécois for his approach, for his desire to see a reduction in violence and division in our country. It is a desire that we share, and we will work on this and continue to work on this. We do recognize that this situation is delicate and difficult, especially when it comes to touching freedom of speech and freedom of religion. There is no simplistic solution to this. There is only hard work in order to unite people, and that is exactly what we are doing and what we'll continue to do. The Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby. Mr. Speaker, the number of forced evictions reported in Quebec continues to rise at a worrying rate. Where are these people going to live? Over 1 million affordable housing units have been lost because of the Liberals and the Conservatives. And just last week, the Conservatives voted to cut all funding for social and affordable housing. The government says it wants to draw inspiration from wartime measures. Where was the war effort to combat the housing crisis over the past 8 years? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as we have said, we will use all tools at our disposal to make housing more affordable, and we'll do so with serious. Minister Fraser stated that we would go back to some wartime policy in order to create a catalogue of house designs that will allow us to accelerate the building of houses. This initiative is one of our innovative and bold ideas to modernize and accelerate the building of housing units in our country. This is another example. And the federal government can do this so that all Canadians have a roof over their heads. Before we continue, I would just like to remind the Right Honourable Prime Minister and all members that one must not refer to the surname of a member. We must refer to them by their title or their riding.
East.
People in Halifax are having to live in fishing tents this winter because of lack of affordable homes. Just last week, the cut-and-gut Conservatives voted no to funding community housing.
Shame.
And the out-of-touch Liberals keep delaying critical funding to build affordable homes. The Housing Minister says he wants to draw inspiration from what Canada did in wartime to fix the housing crisis. A catalogue is not going to cut it. Part of that effort involved a national rent control initiative. Will the Prime Minister bring forward rent control to curb sky-high rent?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've shown a consistent willingness and desire to work with the provinces in areas of their jurisdiction in cooperative ways, and we are going to continue to, including on the issue of rent control. But there's not just one way to approach the housing crisis. It's something that we're doing on many fronts. So not just the catalogue, but indeed we're building more apartments and co-ops by removing the GST on construction. We're eliminating barriers to get more homes built faster by working directly with cities. And we're helping Canadians save up for a home with the First Home Savings Account. I know there's more to do, and we're going to continue to work with all governments to take bold action to tackle housing affordability.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Minister didn't answer my question about the Carleton mushroom farms, which faces a $400,000 carbon tax bill when the Prime Minister is done quadrupling the tax. When we spoke about this on November the 29th, he said that he looks forward to hearing the sustainable practices that the farm has put in place. Well, I can tell him I helped the farm actually get natural gas to its in order to power some of its operations, which is a lower emitting form of energy. But they're still going to face a massive tax increase. How will the Prime Minister advise the farm to pay it? By raising prices on Canadians or shutting down production and bringing in more foreign food?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, for farms across this country that are shifting towards natural gas and lower emitting ways of heating and using their various machinery, that is something that we have put in place significant programs to help them with, and that is something we are going to continue to do because it's part of our plan to both fight climate change and build a net zero economy of the future. We have a plan, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative Party of Canada has no plan to fight climate change. Indeed, they think we should be backing off on all the things we're doing and instead of continuing to fight climate change and grow a strong economy.
That's right.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, the Prime Minister is backing off the things he's doing. Ironically, he's the one that brought in a temporary pause because his caucus was revolting regarding home heating oil. But my question was about the Medeiros Carleton mushroom farm. He claims that he's got government programs to help farmers use more natural gas the same time as he's quadrupling the tax on natural gas, which perhaps is the reason why Canada ranks 58th out of 64 when it comes to climate index performance. Mr. Speaker, he doesn't have a climate plan, he has a tax plan, so how will he advise the Maderos farm to pay the $400,000 bill he's sending them?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we recognize that climate change is a reality. We recognize that we need to help families and businesses across this country reduce their emissions and continue to prosper and grow in a world where the cost of inaction on climate change is increasing exponentially. That is why we have put in place programs to support farms, programs to support Canadians, indeed, to get off home heating oil, for example, and transform into heat pumps. These are things that we are doing as part of our plan. The Conservatives have no plan.
That's right.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Our plan is to bring home production back to Canadian farms, Mr. Speaker. His plan raises a carbon tax on a greenhouse in my riding, which meant that their produce is more expensive in the village of Manotick than a Mexican tomato is in the village of Manotick, sending a price signal for consumers to buy the tomato that had to be transported by truck and train, burning fossil fuels right across the continent. Why doesn't he axe the tax so that we can bring down the cost of farm production and bring home more clean, green Canadian produce?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the price on pollution is simple. Activities that cause pollution cost a bit more, but most Canadians get more money back than what they pay, with checks being sent to Canadians every few months. Big industry pays more than the regular Canadian because industry pollutes more, and as a result, they have an incentive to reduce their pollution. The ideologically driven MAGA Conservatives are calling for pollution to be free again, and for the government to take those regular checks to Canadians away from them.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Everything he just said is factually wrong. One, industry doesn't pay the carbon tax. They have a carbon tax carve-out. Right. And as for him claiming that people get more back in rebates, the Carleton mushroom farms will pay $100,000 this year, rising to $400,000 over the carbon tax increase the Prime Minister proposes. And he's sending them tiny rebate checks to their household mailbox. Is he committing today that he's going to send a $400,000 rebate to this family farm?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are there to support families, but multi-million-dollar farms that are successful will be continued to encourage to look for ways to use their machinery and to heat their produce in ways that is lower emitting. That's what fighting climate change is all about. It's encouraging successful farms like the Maderos family farm to continue to be successful, but to do so in ways that reduce their emissions. We know it cannot ever be free to pollute again, despite what the Conservative Party wants.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Ironically, it is free for Mexican producers to, almost free, they have a tiny, tiny little carbon tax, not even comparable to the $400,000 tax bill that this Prime Minister is proposing. So what he's saying is that there should be a price signal for Canadians to buy more expensive, polluting foreign food, while we, with the 5th biggest supply of arable land on planet Earth, shut our farmers down. How does that make any sense?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
More than just anyone else in this country, farmers understand how important it is to protect the land for future generations, to pass on the bounty to their children and grandchildren of a great, important job that feeds the rest of us. That is why farmers are so focused on the future, and that is why we are there to support them with a plan and investments that helps them reduce their emissions while they continue to put food on all our tables. We have a plan for that. The Conservative Party refuses to even admit that there needs to be work done to reduce emissions. That is not the way to build a future. Not in Carleton, not anywhere.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims that, actually he stated correctly, that farmers are working hard to protect the environment, which is why it's so strange that he wants to punish them with a tax that on one farm alone costs $100,000 that will rise to $400,000 for the crime of using the only source of energy that is available to that farm. So I'll ask the same question I've asked him now about half a dozen times. When he finally gets around to talking to Carleton mushroom farms, how will he advise them to pay their forthcoming $400,000 carbon tax bill? By raising prices on Canadians or by cutting back and bringing in more dirty foreign food?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, 97% of farm fuel emissions are exempt from the price on pollution. The average farm across this country pays a little less than $1,000 on natural gas emissions through the price on pollution. So one can only imagine how much natural gas this successful mushroom farm must be using for their cost of the price on pollution to be that large. And we will happily work with them to switch towards a lower emitting approach to doing their business well and protecting future generations.
The Honourable Member for Montcalm. The government needed a positive announcement after its disastrous autumn session. And to please its centralist allies in the NDP, it chose dental care, a health service that actually already exists in Quebec. It chose an area under Quebec and provincial jurisdiction. It chose to interfere rather than support provinces in Quebec. Encroachment rather than collaboration. How can the Prime Minister justify making an announcement on dental care, a poor announcement on dental care, without having reached an agreement with Quebec? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, recently we launched a historic programme that will provide dental care for children from coast to coast to coast. And we've gone from this to a system that helps seniors as well. So seniors won't have to choose between paying their bills and taking care of their teeth. We will continue to work with provinces and territory, including Quebec, in order to make sure that Canadians who need it can have access to appropriate dental care without having to worry about the bill, and to improve the dental health of all Canadians from coast to coast to coast. The Honourable Member from Montcalm. In Quebec, the provincial healthcare system has been covering dental care for young people since the 70s. The Quebec government was ready to enter into an agreement to improve the plan. All the money transferred would be used for dental care. That was the plan. The Liberals knew this, but it's better for elections to elbow into Quebec's areas of jurisdiction than to simply transfer money. Quebec has the expertise, but the Liberals and the NDP chose Sun Life. Why did the Liberals choose a private company over RAMQ, Quebec's provincial healthcare system? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have great dialogue with Quebec on how we will help Quebecers receive the services that they deserve. We will continue to work for them. We will continue to discuss with the government of Quebec, not with the second official party, the official opposition party here in Ottawa.
The Honourable Member from Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Last night at committee, the hand-picked Liberal chair of this Prime Minister's billion-dollar Green Slush Fund was exposed as having used staff at the fund to round up $10 million for her project that had been deemed ineligible. And then she literally ran out of the committee, shutting off the cameras because she didn't want to answer any more questions. This NDP Liberal government failed to protect taxpayers from embezzlers and swindlers to the tune of $150 million. After 8 years, this Prime Minister isn't worth that cost. When will Canadians get back their missing millions?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Innovation has already accepted the resignation of the CEO and chair When allegations are made and issues arise, it's both appropriate and necessary for there to be a review of the matter. Those investigations and reviews are currently underway, and we look forward to the results of those investigations.
The honourable member from Leeds-Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, it's going to be more in-depth than the whitewash investigation that this Prime Minister and his minister put forward. They're under investigation by the Auditor General, 2 Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner investigations. Their board chair, his hand-picked chair, resigned in disgrace along with the CEO. The Prime Minister was handing out millions after his minister knew that his insiders had their hand in the cookie jar, taking $150 million taxpayer dollars. This Prime Minister isn't worth the cost after 8 years, and his NDP Liberal government couldn't be more out of touch. So who got rich and where did the missing millions go?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
In service of making cheap political points, the Conservative Party of Canada can't take yes for an answer. Independent officers of Parliament are investigating. A third-party review of the allegations is underway, and we're committed to ensuring organizations which receive federal funding adhere to the highest standards of governance. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to fighting climate change and drawing in investments from around the world, we have a plan, we have a focus on doing it in the right ways that's going to grow the economy and support Canadians. The Conservatives have no plan whatsoever. All they can do is try and play partisan political games.
That's right. The honourable member from South Shore, St. Margaret's.
The Minister of Industry for 35 months as minister on this file. And the Prime Minister's handpicked chair of the Green Slush Fund admitted last night that she tried to get $2.2 million of taxpayer money funneled to the Visharian Centre Vanity Project from the fund she chairs. Then she got the employees of the Slush Fund to get another $10 million for the Visharian Vanity Project from Liberal ministers. She took the money and ran. Visharian claimed that was being an entrepreneur. We're calling it grifting. Why did the Prime Minister let his green slush fund chair abuse the taxpayer for personal gain?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The Minister has already addressed this question, and investigations are underway. But the work we are doing on fighting climate change is already cutting pollution while building a strong and competitive economy. While we work to advance our ambitious climate action, the Conservative Party has no plan because fighting climate change simply doesn't matter to them. The Conservative leader is turning his back on future generations, on both environment and economy, by refusing to commit to Canada's targets like his mentor Stephen Harper did when he withdrew from the Kyoto Accords.
The honourable member from Mégantic-Clérable. After 8 years with this Prime Minister, Liberal friends are still lining their pockets. The $1 billion Green Slush Fund was confirmed by explosive testimony from a courageous whistleblower. Do you remember the Bye-Bye Boss advert from Little Quebec when someone leaves their job because they won the lottery? Well, that's what the former chair of the Green Fund, appointed by the Prime Minister, did. She fled, running from a committee with her pockets full to the brim with $10 million. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister finally get Canadians' money back? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Minister has already addressed this issue. There's an investigation underway. With regards to the environment, we will go beyond the Harper government's objectives for 2030, and the most recent emission forecasts show that Canada is ready to reach its climate objectives for 2030. An objective that is new, tabled by our government, and attainable. Our plan works. The Conservatives' plan that encourages emissions will only benefit large companies that repeat the same slogans as he does.
The honourable member from Nunavut.
Adequate housing for Indigenous peoples have been neglected by Conservatives and Liberals. Thanks to the NDP, a for Indigenous by Indigenous housing strategy will now help First Nations, Métis, and Inuit to find adequate homes away from their home communities. But there is still work to do. Territorial governments like Nunavut are still waiting on this government to deliver funding for homes for their residents. Why are the Liberals always delaying critical funding for housing in the territories?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've demonstrated time and time again how committed we are to address housing gaps in Indigenous communities swiftly, effectively, and in equal partnership. Since 2016, we've supported the construction and renovation of over 30,000 homes in First Nations communities. We launched the $4 billion urban, rural, and northern Indigenous housing strategy, despite the Conservative Party voting to cut this essential funding. We will continue working with partners to co-develop and implement community-based housing solutions.
The Honourable Member from Edmonton-Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, Edmonton families are making tough choices this winter. Put food on the table or buy Christmas presents for their kids. But who's stealing Christmas this year? Is it Scrooge? Is it the Grinch? No, it's the Liberal Conservative Corporate Coalition. They've let their grocery CEO friends jack up prices to make record profits while Canadians turn to food banks for Christmas dinner. Why is the government okay with letting grocery CEOs ruin the holidays for Edmonton families this winter?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've actually taken real actions to hold grocery CEOs to account with more competition, because more competition means lower prices, more choice, and more innovative products and services for Canadians. Our affordability legislation will empower the Competition Bureau to hold grocers accountable and prioritize consumers' interests. The Fall Economic Statement proposes further amendments to the Competition Act to crack down on predatory pricing and better respond to anti-competitive mergers and more. We're ensuring Canadians have more competitive options, and we're limiting excess profits by corporations at the expense of Canadians.
That's right. Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member from Charlottetown.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian veterans have fought for our country and deserve all the respect in the world.
Hear, hear.
Our government has invested over $11 billion in new services and supports for veterans since 2016 and will always support those who have served to promote and defend Canadian values, both at home and in so-called faraway foreign lands. Can the Prime Minister update this House on what measures this government has taken to support our veterans?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for Charlottetown for his advocacy and his leadership on the Veterans Affairs Committee. One of the very first things we did when we formed government was to reverse the damaging Conservative cuts to veterans services. Veterans remember when that party cut programs, fired 1,000 veteran support staff, and closed 9 veterans offices, in all an attempt to nickel and dime veterans to balance the budget for an election. And we saw last week that nothing has changed when the Conservative Party voted to cut funding for our armed forces, and even worse, they voted last week to cut support for homeless veterans. The Canadian veterans know they cannot trust this Conservative leader.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this is a Prime Minister who said veterans were asking for more than he could give. He sued them in court after he said he never would. He's caused the homelessness that he just talked about, and he spends the money on more bureaucracy instead of on our veterans. Now, he asked how much that the Carleton mushroom farms is spending on gas. He says they're spending too much. I have their bill records here, Mr. Speaker. In November alone, it was $11,866, prorated to about $100,000 a year, which he wants to quadruple to $400,000 a year. Once again, should the farm raise prices on consumers or cut production so polluting foreign farms get the business?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the average farm family, the average farm in Canada pays far less, around 1% of what that very successful farm is paying. Because the reality is 97% of farm fuel emissions are already exempt from the price on pollution. That is why we are continuing to move forward with programs and supports to encourage farms across the country, particularly very successful farms, to look at ways to reduce their emissions as they move forward into a net zero future.
That's right.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So that's his attitude now. Remember when he called small businesses wealthy tax cheats? Now he accuses the Carleton Mushroom Farm of being Too successful. Therefore, they need to pay higher taxes. He clearly has no idea about our food supply chain because, of course, grains have to be dried, and the fuels for drying are now taxed. Barns have to be heated. Those barns, that heating, are now taxed. There's a common sense Conservative bill to axe the tax on those farmers to lower the price of the food. But if he doesn't believe that this tax costs farmers, will he sit down with the Madero's Carlton Mushroom Farm and inspect their bill personally?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government reached out and will continue to reach out to a range of farmers across the country who want to reduce their emissions, who are concerned about climate change, who want to preserve our land for future generations, who understand, unlike these MAGA conservatives, that there is no choice anymore between protecting the environment and growing the economy. While the conservatives want to take us back to the Stone Age, we're going to continue to invest in supporting farms, supporting businesses, supporting Canadians while we reduce our pollution, reduce our emissions, and build a stronger future for everyone.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he's missed all his targets except for the 1 year when the Canadians were locked down. His own Environment Commissioner says that he will come nowhere near meeting his 2030 targets. And now Canada ranks 58th out of 64 on the Climate Performance Index. So his tax is not working. And nor does he seem to understand how food arrives. Food doesn't come from the grocery store, Mr. Speaker. The average farmer in Canada has to spend $150,000 on his carbon tax for barns and drying, and that all has to go to the consumers. Won't he pass our common sense bill to axe the tax on food?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when we took office 8 years ago, Canada had no plan to reach even its very modest, the Harper government's even very modest environmental targets. We not only have surpassed the Harper targets, we put in place new ambitious targets that we are very much on track to meeting, Mr. Speaker. We have decreased our emissions over the past 2 years faster than any other G7 country, and we will continue to lead the way on demonstrating that you cannot have a plan for the future of the economy if you don't have a plan to fight climate change. That's what we're doing. That's what they are not.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he is wrong on the facts. Under the previous Conservative government, we actually reduced emissions while growing the economy. We did it through technology and not taxes. This Prime Minister, by the way, I said earlier that Canada ranked 58th out of 64. There's a new publication of the ranking, and Canada is now 62nd out of 67. In fact, we've fallen. The higher the tax, the worse the ranking. So, will the Prime Minister finally get rid of his tax plan and come up with an environment plan?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are on track to surpass Harper government's 2030 target, and the latest emissions projections show Canada is on track to achieving our government's new, ambitious, and achievable 2030 climate goal. Our plan is working. We're seeing companies around the world invest in Canada. We were the third largest country in terms of foreign direct investment in the world earlier this year because people are noticing Canada's leadership on fighting against climate change. But that party continues to vote against measures to support our farmers, measures to invest in a cleaner economy, measures to protect Canadians and their economy from the challenges of the future. We will be there for Canadians.
L'honorable député de Lac-Saint-Jean.
Il y a deux solitudes.
There are two solitudes, even in the attitude towards asylum seekers. Quebec takes in half of Canada's asylum seekers, and we don't hesitate. We offer services first on our own dime, and then ask the federal government to reimburse the $460 million bill. People first, money second. The federal government, on the other hand, offers no services at all, and when it's time to pay, says it's not an ATM. It's a damn good thing Quebecers don't have the same attitude towards asylum seekers as the federal government. Will the Prime Minister do his part and reimburse Quebecers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, every year we provide hundreds of millions of dollars to Quebec to help integrate newcomers, including to help them learn French. The immigration system will continue to be reinforced and bring its benefits to Quebec and the country. Immigration is essential to help businesses and find the workers that they need in order to grow our economy. We will always work very closely with the government of Quebec, whether it be on immigration, housing, or the economy.
L'honorable député de Lac-Saint-Jean.
Asylum seekers are the federal government's responsibility. And instead of repeating that it's not an ATM, the federal government has to stop treating Quebecers like its personal credit card. The entire bill for services to asylum seekers is being charged to it. Well, today the bill comes due. The Prime Minister has to pay his balance, and true to form, he's trying to get out of it. He doesn't like paying his debts. We know all about him. So we won't let this go. Will he take responsibility for asylum seekers and respect Quebecers and pay them back? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, for years we've sent hundreds of millions of dollars to Quebec to help with asylum seekers. We recognize how much Quebecers have shown generosity and been present for asylum seekers, and we will continue to be there to help because Canada is a welcoming country, but also a country that has to make sure everyone is well protected when they get here, even asylum seekers. We will continue to work with Quebec. We will continue to be there to support asylum seekers because that's the right thing to do.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After 8 years, this Prime Minister is not worth the cost of housing. According to the Bank of Canada, we have the worst affordability since 41 years. Rents have doubled, and now it costs more to rent one bedroom in a shared apartment than it did for the whole apartment when this Prime Minister took power. Evictions in Quebec have gone up by 132%. It's the main cause of homelessness. Will the Prime Minister finally reverse policies that favor bureaucracy and help with homelessness? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. The Conservative leader said what he thinks by stating that the federal government should pull out of building affordable housing, but we're not going to follow that irresponsible advice. Maybe that's why last week his party voted against funding for building 71,000 new apartments and voted against more than 1,500 new housing units for most vulnerable people. We will not partisan games from the Conservatives undermine our efforts to get housing for everyone. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. All of those apartment housing units have one thing in common. They don't exist. They don't exist. 8 years ago, they promised to spend $97 million on affordable housing. And we've seen rents doubled and mortgages. In Quebec, 132% increase in evictions is now the main cause of homelessness after 8 years of this Prime Minister. When will he recognize that increasing bureaucracy and inflation doesn't help with housing? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, last week, the Conservative Party voted against 71,000 new apartment units. They voted against 15,000 affordable housing units. And their excuse now is that they don't exist yet, so we can vote against it. Come on. That's really a lack of understanding of the responsibility of a government to invest to create a better future, to solve problems. Mr. Speaker, he just wants to increase distress, whereas on this side of the House, We are going to stand up for Canadians in spite of the Conservatives who oppose all these measures. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Same thing he's done for 8 years. He spent $87 billion on housing affordability to double housing costs. We have fewer homes per capita than we did when he took office, the fewest homes of any country in the G7. He doubled the rent, doubled mortgage payments, doubled the needed down payment, to the point where the Bank of Canada reports this week that Canada has the worst housing affordability in 41 years. And Rent.ca reveals that it's now more expensive to rent one room in a shared apartment than it was 8 years ago to rent the entire apartment for oneself. Mr. Speaker, when will he realize that ballooning inflation and the bureaucracy doesn't build homes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when will the Leader of the Official Opposition understand that voting against the construction of 71,000 new homes through the Apartment Construction Loan Program is not going to help anyone? That voting against the construction of 12,000 new affordable homes through the Rapid Housing Initiative will not help Canadians. He chose to play partisan games last night in trying to shut down this House through a MAGA-inspired approach while we continue to stand up for Canadians and deliver on the things they need. While they play partisan games, we will continue to fight for Canadians.
L'honorable député de Sudbury.
Monsieur le Président, le secteur du tourisme.
Mr. Speaker, the tourism sector reaches all regions of the country and is also the second largest employer in rural areas. 40% of tourism jobs are in rural areas. Can the Prime Minister tell this House how the government supports millions of workers in the tourism sector? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I thank the member for Sudbury for her excellent question and her hard work. Last week, the Conservative Party voted against programs to support Canadians and turn their backs on the 2 million tourism sector workers. They voted against funding to support tourism growth in the country. Workers in that sector deserve better, unlike the Conservatives, who only support workers during their advertising campaigns. On this side of the House, we will continue to support workers in the tourism sector.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Maclean's magazine reports, and I quote, 2 jobs, no money, how mortgage rates have pushed one Toronto father to the brink. And I quote, 2 years into our mortgage, their bi-weekly payments have reached $2,268, now paying more than $5,000 a month to live in a 900-square-foot townhouse, and $3,500 of that goes to interest. Mr. Speaker, all of his spending programs have doubled the cost of housing, and according to Bank of Nova Scotia, have boosted interest rates another 2%. Will he realize the damage he's doing in causing Canadians unsupportable and sustainable mortgage?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we recognize the challenges Canadians are facing, and on this side of the House, we've chosen to invest to support them, to create new affordable housing, to create new apartments. But, Mr. Speaker, as much as the Leader of the Opposition loves to rise in this House to talk about Canadians and suffering, he will not rise in this House to support solutions to Canadians' challenges. He rose in the House to vote against 71,000 new rental homes through the Apartment Construction Loan Program. He rose in this House to vote against 12,000 new affordable homes through the Rapid Housing Initiative. He likes to instrumentalize Canadians. He won't solve for them.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Voted against an approach that has spent $87 billion on affordable housing to double the cost of housing. He thinks that if he's expensive, he's excused for his failures. Mr. Speaker, failing is bad. Failing expensively is even worse. Our common sense plan would require cities permit 15% more housing as a condition of getting their financing, give them bonuses if they beat the target, link the dollars they get for transit to requirements for apartments around them, and sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to build, build, build. Why can't he get behind that common sense plan?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, inflation has gone up, interest rates have gone up, food prices have gone up, energy prices have gone up, all linked to the ongoing war that Russia is waging in Ukraine. We recognize that on this side of the House, and we are acting not just to bring down prices here at home, but to stand with Ukraine in our fight against Russia. Unfortunately, the leader of the official opposition, who referred to Ukraine as a faraway land, refuses to stand up to deliver for Ukraine. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we will always be there for Ukraine.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he's not there for Ukraine, he's there for himself. When Conservatives demanded that the government provide lethal weapons before Putin's invasion, when they most needed them, he said no. When Conservatives kicked Putin out of the G8, made it the G7, he said no. And what he said yes to giving Putin an exported big, powerful turbine to pump his gas and fill his war chest and export detonators used for Russian mines that blow up Ukrainians, Mr. Speaker. That's not there for Ukrainians. We will stand for Ukrainians and for Canadians.
The Right Honourable. Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I am delighted to find ourselves in an argument about which side of the House is more supportive of Ukraine, because one of the strengths that Canada has had on the world stage these past difficult 2 years is that we've said there is no debate around support in Ukraine in Canada like there is in other countries where MAGA-inspired far-right movements are undermining supports for Ukraine. The Conservative Party of Canada has an opportunity to reverse its position in opposing the Ukraine free trade deal that Zelensky is asking for. Will they vote in favor of Ukraine free trade?
Order. The Honourable Member from Etobicoke Centre.
Mr. Speaker, our government has been clear on where we stand on the war in Ukraine. We know that Ukrainians...
I'm going to ask colleagues, please. This member is very far away from the Speaker. The Speaker would like to hear the member. The Honourable Member from Etobicoke Centre.
Mr. Speaker, our government has been clear on where we stand on the war in Ukraine. We understand that Ukrainians are not just fighting for their own freedom and survival, but that they're also fighting for us, and that we need to be fighting for them.
Non seulement que moi j'ai des difficultés à entendre le...
Not only am I having trouble hearing the Honourable Member for Etobicoke Centre when he's asking his question, I see that there are members on the other side of the House who are having trouble hearing the question. I invite the member for Etobicoke Centre to restart their question.
Mr. Speaker, our government has been clear as to where we stand on the war in Ukraine. We understand that the Ukrainian people are not just fighting for their own freedom and survival, but that they're also fighting for us, and that we need to be fighting for them.
I'm going to ask the member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan, please, to wait his turn to ask a question. I'll also ask the member from Provencher to keep it down so that we could have this question asked. The honourable member from Etobicoke Centre from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, it is clear where our government stands on Ukraine. We understand that the Ukrainian people are not only fighting for their own freedom and survival, but that they're also fighting for us and that we need to be fighting for them. It is also clear where Conservative MPs stand. Their leader has never advocated for more military, financial, or humanitarian support for Ukraine. They voted against the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement, and yesterday, the leader of the Conservative Party dismissively referred to Ukraine as a faraway foreign land. Under this leader,
Colleagues. I notice that members will wait until I've actually recognized a member to then start heckling again. I'm asking once again, please. And if members are going to have the ability to heckle, then please have the way to identify yourselves who are heckling and not leaning back to try to cover your face from other members so that the speaker can't hear. So I'm going to ask the honourable members to please allow the member from Etobicoke Centre so that we all can get back to the business of doing the people's work. The honourable member from Etobicoke Centre, I regret, from the top.
Mr. Speaker, our government has been clear as to where we stand on the war in Ukraine. We know that the Ukrainian people are not only fighting for their own freedom and survival, but that they're also fighting for us and that we need to be fighting for them. It is also clear now where Conservative MPs stand. Their leaders never advocated for more military, financial, or humanitarian support for Ukraine. They voted against the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement, and yesterday, the leader of the Conservative Party referred dismissively to Ukraine as a far-away foreign land. Under this leader, the Conservative Party has abandoned Ukraine. Could the Prime Minister please reassure Canadians that this government will stand with the Ukrainian people until they win?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we really see how much they hate it when we talk about Ukraine. I thank the member for Etobicoke Centre for his leadership in supporting Ukraine. The Conservative Party, yet again, showed Ukrainians and all Canadians who they really are. When it came time to support military aid to Ukraine, they voted against. When it came time to support Operation Unifier, they voted against. When it came to the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement, twice they voted against. While the Conservative leader is busy taking talking points from Fox News and Donald Trump, on this side of the House, we support Ukraine!
The honourable member from Courtenay, Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, even though small businesses are dealing with a cost of living crisis, the Liberals are forcing them to pay back the Canada Emergency Business Account loan within the next few weeks, or risk losing up to $20,000. And while the Liberals put small businesses in jeopardy, they're handing out $21.6 billion to their rich consultant friends. Reducing this out-of-control outsourcing by just 4% more would cover the cost of extending the CEBA. So instead of choosing rich CEOs and highly paid consultants, will the Liberals support small businesses by extending the CEBA by just 1 year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, during the pandemic, we stepped up with unprecedented supports for small businesses. We were there to support them. We were there to invest in them. We were there to support Canadian workers, Canadian families, Canadian seniors. We were there with supports that saw us through this pandemic with fewer deaths and a stronger economy than most of our peers. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, we were there to help Canadians through the pandemic, and we're going to continue to support small businesses in many different ways. But the pandemic is over in its acute phase. We will continue to be there to support people, but pandemic supports needed to end.
The honourable member from Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, despite climate negotiations being captured by fossil fuel interests, countries just agreed at COP28 to transition away from fossil fuels. Yet back at home, this government continues to do the opposite, wasting over $1,200 on behalf of each and every Canadian taxpayer to expand the TMX pipeline and increasing oil production to record levels. Why is it this PM can't find the money to ensure we end legislated poverty for people with disabilities, but has tens of billions of dollars for a leaky pipeline?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canada demonstrated yet again its leadership on the world stage with ambitious leadership in putting a cap on emissions from the oil and gas sector, on recognizing that we do need to get to a net zero economy, and we need to support all our industries, including our energy industry, in moving towards that. We will be there to support workers in the energy industry as we focus on decarbonization. We will be there to support businesses across this country as they shift to lower emitting technologies. We understand the process it takes. We will accompany Canadians every step of the way, and we will get to net zero.
Hear, hear.
And that brings to an end question period. I see rising on a point of order is the Honourable Government House Leader.
Sure. Mr. Speaker, there have been discussions among the parties, and if you seek it, I believe you would find unanimous consent to adopt the following motion. That the motion standing on the order paper in the name of the Leader of the Government in the House of Commons related to the appointment of Eric Jantz as Clerk of the House of Commons pursuant to Standing Order 111.1-1 be deemed adopted.
All those opposed to the Honourable Minister moving the motion will please say nay. Agreed. The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. Carried.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. A point of order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thrice today, the Leader of the Opposition, of the official opposition, referred to a document that was tabled at COP28. This document, Climate Change Performance Index. I apologize, but there are no's from others in this chamber.
Rising on another point of order, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that if you reflect in terms of what had taken place over question period and the amount of decorum, and this is something I think is really important, Mr. Speaker.
I'll just ask the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to please quote the standing order so that the Speaker can hear.
A member of Ukrainian heritage, a member from the Centre, on several occasions tried to get his question across.
So I'm just wondering if the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary would like to quote the point of order that he is referring to so that I can listen.
18, Mr. Speaker, Section 18 of the standing orders. In reference to decorum, the member of Ukrainian heritage, the member from Etobicoke Centre, on several occasions attempted to get his question across, Mr. Speaker. And as I am right now is being shouted down as opposed to being allowed to be heard. And we believe, Mr. Speaker, that you should take a look at those questions and report back, because we are starting to see the MAGA right from the Conservative Party.
I thank the honourable member. I see the honourable member from Haldeman Norfolk is rising on. The honourable member from Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
On January 18, when I was given my SO31 on Ukraine, the Liberals heckled me the entire time. And Mr. Speaker, I have to say that during
I'm just going to ask the honourable member if he could quote the. I'm asking the honourable member just to quote the standing order in which he's raising. So the honourable member. He did.
So on the issue of decorum and Standing Order 18, I, a person of Ukrainian heritage, the entire time I was given my SO31, was heckled and yelled at by the Liberals. And when you look at the member from Etobicoke Centre, when he got up, he actually misinformed the House when he said that we were opposed to Ukraine. When actually the Liberals voted against all the early issues and measures we took as a government and as Conservatives. They voted consecutively in 2014 and 2015 against measures to support Ukraine, Operation Unifier, Operation Reassurance.
We are now moving into. So, colleagues, we are now. We are now moving into issues of debate. I recognize the honourable member from Haldeman first to raise on a point of order.
There have been discussions among the parties, and I'm sure if you seek it, you will find that Bill C-234 will lower the cost.
So I regret I'm hearing a lot of no's from other members that there's not unanimous consent to see to proceed. The honourable member from Kingston and the Island is rising on a point of order, and I hope he will quote the point of order in which he is rising on.
I'm further contributing to the point of order raised by the member from Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman in regards to Standing Order 18 and decorum. I just wanted to point out for the member, there were only 34 Liberals here when he was claiming all these votes occurred. I'd like to know if he wants to say which ones voted that way.
So we are going to move on now. It being 3:31, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion at second reading stage of Bill S-210 under private members' business. Call in the members. The question is as follows. Madame Vecchio, appuyée par Madame.
Mrs. Vecchio, seconded by Mrs. Veen, moved that Bill S-210, an act to restrict young persons' online access to sexually explicit material, be now read a second time and referred to the Standing Committee on Public Safety and National Security.
The
10-minute period for members voting electronically has started, and the House will now proceed to the vote. We will start with the sponsor of the item. We will now proceed to members participating in person. All those